Hey everyone, Brandon here. Welcome back to another episode of the 2023 NFL Draft Rookie Report. For today's show, we are going to talk about a hot wide receiver right now, Tennessee wide receiver Jalin Hyatt. We're going to discuss his 2022 film. We're going to discuss his expected draft capital, and we're also going to discuss his future dynasty value and put our projection caps on. So the goal of the show is really to provide an early look at our 2023 rookie class. So we're excited to talk about Jalin today. There's no hotter wide receiver right now to talk about. Hit that subscribe button. We've done plenty of shows like this with Jordan Addison. We just did Zach Charbonnet, Blake Corum. And we're going to be doing many, many more as we head to the draft season. With me is my good friend and co-host, Jason DiRienzo. He is a recent graduate of the Scouting Academy and co-founder of the Devy Watch website. Jason, you and I are going to be talking about Mr. Jalin Hyatt. Could there be a hotter wide receiver discussion right now?
I don't think so. This is a juicy one. I think we need to break this one down pretty quickly here.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to get into it because he is rising up draft boards. We're recording this. It is the second week of November, and we were just discussing pre-show that Mel Kiper has put Jalin Hyatt as his number 2 wide receiver in the draft class. And, we're scratching our heads over here a little bit because Jason and I don't think we're going to see that kind of rise out of him, and we're going to tell you why. So stick around.
Yeah, we'll explain why.
We're going to explain why. So he's 6 foot, 180 pounds through week 10. He has 51 receptions, 970 yards, and a whopping 14 touchdowns. So again, I put a scouting film on this YouTube channel. At the end of this show, I'm gonna put two films in front of you. I'm gonna put the Georgia game in front of you, and as well as this Alabama game. So there's 2 of the best teams in the SEC that he went against, and he was productive in the Bama game. Not so much this past weekend for the Georgia game. But let's go through some PFF stats here. This is through week 10. Snap location, something that's important, right? We want our wide receivers to be a little bit versatile, but he is 90%. He has played in the slot this year, and pretty much that has been consistent in his career. Only 10% out wide. His catch percentage, 78. Got good solid hands. We're going to discuss that when we get to his scouting profile. Yards per reception, 18.8. That's on the high end in college football. He's an explosive player. That's what that basically tells you. He's catching a lot of vertical passes during the games. His average depth of target is 13.6, which is also on the higher end. Again, explaining that he is a vertical threat, and his yards after catch is 7.6. So again, he's got a bit of yak ability. So anything with these numbers that kind of, he's an explosive vertical player.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what these numbers tell me.
Yeah. So he's got some speed, right? So I think that is going to be his calling card. We're going to talk about that. All right. So let's get into his scouting profile. Okay. Because Jason and I, we've watched every game this kid has played this year. And he's one of these prospects that kind of like a Kadarius Toney, right? A guy that hasn't been really productive his first few years, and then all of a sudden he breaks out and kind of rises up draft boards. And it'll be curious if we're going to get later. We're going to talk about his expected draft capital, and we'll talk about that. But this guy is on the rise. So let's talk about his release and route running. All right. So I'm going to kind of read a couple sentences out of my scouting report that is on my Devy dashboard, a product that I can sell. You can reach out to me. There's some information in the show notes. Not playing 90% in the slot this year. But I think I have written out here when he played out wide. Did you notice, Jason, that he always that 2-stack formation on the outside?
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't a bunch formation, but yeah, it was a 2-stack.
It was a 2-stacks, right? So there would be usually Tillman would be in front, he would be out. And what that did is that allowed him to get a lot of clean releases. Now, on his film, and this is the case for a lot of wide receivers, is there's not a lot of guys that that face the press, right? Especially in the slot, and they get the open releases. There was very few passes, especially until we get our all 22 film after the season, being where I had a defensive back up in his face, up in his grill, where he had to, use his hands, manipulate a defender, sink his hips and cut. Did you find anything in that? So I have a hard time with his release and route running. Look, there's no doubt about it. This guy's got a very, very quick first step. He puts a lot of DBs in a very defensive position early in the route. I think people underrate. The guy is a burner. We're going to talk about his speed here shortly. But I didn't find a lot of routes or a lot of film where, like I said, the DB's in his grill saying, come beat me right now.
I didn't see any of that either. And I'm not going to hold it against him, but it's hard to get a general idea of the expectation of what we could translate or project of how he's going to face against NFL competition, even if there's a cushion there. I have no idea how he's going to react against a defender who has the same athleticism that he might have. So that was a tough one for me.
Yeah, and I didn't see an expansive route tree either.
No,
It was
post,
a lot of post inside
corner,
slants. Yep.
right?
And
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot of, I mean, there was a couple comeback routes and stuff like that and stop routes when he was given the wide cushion
right.
where, maybe he was the second, third read. But in any case, so from a release and route running, I'm going to give him we're going to kind of grade these 1 through 5, these traits. I'm going to give him because of his speed. And I think that's going to be his hallmark and his, his clear trait going to the NFL. I'm going to give him a 3.5, 4 for that.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I like that because honestly, the 4 goes in that he could have a really nice speed release. I just don't know, but it's available if he can get that nuance to his route running. So yeah, 3, 4. I think that's fair.
Yeah. So his ball
I'm with
skills
you.
and hands, that's the next trait we want to kind of look at. I think he's got excellent deep ball tracking ability. He didn't have very many contested catch situations at all on his film. I mean, this guy's a burner. He got a lot of free releases. Like I said, he put DBs in in a defensive position. They usually had a hard time twisting their hips and actually chasing him down the field. But I think he plays a little bit bigger. He appears to have long arms, so he can go up. He's got the length. He can go up. I thought the body control was good, going up and grabbing the ball. I thought his hand technique looked, decent. I'm not a technician when it comes to hand technique by any means, but I thought he had an impressive catch radius and overall good hands.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's weird. He has the length, but he's not a long player. Like he doesn't have a long frame. He's what, 6 foot? He looks like he's 6'4", 6'3" with the way his frame is. But yeah, his contested catch ability is kind of an NA at this point. I'm not too sure, but I like the fact that he can catch outside of his frame as necessary, tracking the ball very well, not losing speed, catching in stride. And I saw him get some body catches, but that was just because he took what he can get. So I'm not going to judge him there.
All right. So what's your grade 1 out of 5 for his ball skills and hands?
I think the ball skills are a 4, but I need to see more.
Okay. I'm going to go with, that sounds about right. We got to stop. We got to stop agreeing. It's just no fun when we agree, but it is what it is. I think we see a lot.
I mean, we're watching the same film.
Film, So speed and yards after catch, right? Speed is what this kid is going to be. It's all anyone's talking about at all is his speed, right? But you're going to need a lot more than speed, as we know, to win in the NFL. And I think we just have to be a little cautious that just because you're a fast guy, there's a lot more that you need to do to be able to use that speed to your advantage when you get to the NFL. I think he's explosive off the line. I think he has sudden acceleration. He can pick up big yards after the catch, but a lot of these yards after the catch, right? We talked about his yards after the catch was 7.6. I mean, these yards after the catch came primarily after he beat his DB down the field.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he caught a lot in the short and intermediate parts of the field and started dazzling us with making cuts and making guys miss. And he's this, dynamic athlete. He got most of his yards after the catch just by being a fast player.
Right. And he got pretty hooked up with his speed too, because in the Kentucky game, both of those touchdowns came on broken defensive coverages. You know what I mean? So he was wide open. And then even in Alabama, those were all just free releases where he was just zooming down the field for an open catch. So that's why he's a very difficult player to, analyze right now because of how he wins. But I mean, if we're talking about the speed and yards after the catch, I think that's a 4 or 5 because he's got 4.3 speed and it's elite.
Yeah, he did. He's got a verified 4.31 in 2021.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So.
Yeah, and we know that the NFL just slobbers over kids that have that kind of speed, and probably figured that they can develop these other skills if he brings those base traits to the field. But you're absolutely right, and I'm glad you pointed that out because for the people that are just the box score watchers out there, I mean, even the game against Georgia this past weekend, his longest catch was 28 yards. It was kind of like on a misassignment on a DB from Georgia. And I feel like a lot of his production has been just free plays and broken. I
He's
mean,
taking advantage of it, so I can't knock him for
yeah,
that. Right?
I know. But again, I mean,
But
it's a lot different in the NFL than
for
you're not
sure.
going to be getting broken plays. You're going to have to win through, just athleticism and toughness and ball skills. So let's get to his physicality and play strength. I think he's got a slight frame at 6 foot. I think he's going to need to bulk up his play strength just a little bit. Again, like we just talked about, he didn't face any press. Most of his stuff came on just open releases. But so, I mean, it was hard to judge his physicality and play strength because anytime you saw him on film, he was just running with the ball in his hands. You didn't really see, what kind of hand usage he needed to be or kind of getting bumped off routes. But I did notice one thing with his physicality. He got tackled really easily.
Yes. I was going to say the same thing. He gets wrap up tackled and it's over.
So does he have that ability to kind of shed tackles at the next level, playing with the big boys of, I'm not sure. He's got that slight frame. So,
I mean, from what I've seen right now, I don't think he does, because every time I saw him get touched or get contact, that was kind of the end of the play. And we only have so much film on him. So to me, that's telling me that's exactly kind of who he is within his own play strength. I think he's a competitor, but strength, that's going to have to improve.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about draft capital, right? I think the concerns that we have with, before we get to the draft capital is, limited route running. Is he really twitchy? Does he really have the elite separation skills, to be one-on-one with these elite DBs in the NFL? It remains to be seen. And I think his frame and play strength is something I think he's going to need to, work on and get stronger. So his draft capital. This is going to be fascinating because, could he have a Kadarius Toney kind of rise, like comes from the ashes from nobody and gets picked like I said, Kuiper's got him number 2 now. That way, I mean, if he's number 2, and I know that if you like Kuiper or not, I know that's,
we need to get Kuiper on this show.
Yeah, we need to get Kuiper and say,
yourself.
Explain yourself, Kuiper.
That's a new segment.
A new segment, yeah. I was really shocked to see him, above, especially for just his production's been 5 or 6 games in the last month and a half, and all of a sudden he's a day 1 pick. Where do you see him going in the draft?
I got to think that the way the NFL is falling in love with speed and production, I mean, he went off against Alabama. Nobody's going to forget that. I don't think he gets out of the mid-second, to be quite honest. I mean, it's such a tough I wouldn't take him there, but I can understand that I'm going to go off history right now with the way NFL teams are, and I see probably mid to late second somewhere. If Tyquan Thornton goes, I think, in the second round, then Jalin Hyatt's going.
Yeah. And Velus Jones, right? If you're Chicago Bears.
Yeah, he went in the 3rd. So
yeah, Tennessee guy, so
right.
yeah, I think he's a day 2 guy at this point. The NFL just loves speed, right?
Right.
So as a rookie draft selection, again, he's probably, we don't know where the landing spot's going to be, but if he lands in a good spot, I think he's going to be, a day late, late round 1, maybe early round 2.
I think that's fair. I mean, pending landing spot, if it's sweet, it bumps up. But right now, I'd say late 1st, early 2nd. I think you're right there.
Yeah. So on an NFL team, he's not going to be an alpha in my mind. Not even close.
Agreed.
So like again, he played 90% in the slot. So it could be a situation where he is that really great 3rd slot receiver. Like the Eagles could use a guy like him right now. Right. We've got Devonta Smith on the outside. We've got AJ Brown. We got Quez Watkins right now. Just using this as an example, he'd be a great 3rd down, a 3rd receiver working out of the slot for receiver. I think that's where I see his role is as a wide receiver 3 on a team.
We got to stop agreeing. I see the same thing because the upside is definitely there for him.
So a comp right now is thrown out all over the place. Jameson Williams, late bloomer, same size. I thought Jameson Williams showed a lot more when it came to technique of getting open at Alabama than this kid shown this year. Like it's not even close for me.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not even close.
So
my comp, just because watching him at LSU and watching the way he plays and winning down the seam and on 9 routes and stuff, I see Terrace Marshall a little bit. Terrace Marshall had a lot of free releases at LSU. His 1 game against Missouri came on a bunch of 9 routes down the seam, 3 touchdowns in that game. And he plays very similar to Terrace Marshall to me. So that's kind of where I see his upside.
I thought Terrace Marshall was a little bigger.
He is. He's 6'3", 200. But
Okay.
the way that they play
Like, yeah.
and the speed and the free releases that I saw from Terrace Marshall, because that was always my concern. I never saw how he played against coverage because he was always in the slot and always had a huge cushion to work with, and he was always sent down the seam or on 9 routes or corners or post routes, just like Hyatt. And that's kind of what I see.
Okay. Yeah, I could. That makes perfect sense. It looks like Marshall's starting to finally break out this year. We're starting to see. So it's good. Yeah, starting to come on. So, all right, guys, there you have it. Jalin Hyatt. That is like our thought process right now. We've probably got 5-6 more games that we're going to see of Hyatt. So we'll see if he gets any press, or when he gets to the championship games, or maybe the championship games, bowl games, whatever. We'll get a little bit more film. But especially we've got to see Georgia and Alabama. He's not going to face two better teams than that to see what we got. So we'll be watching the rest of his film as the season goes along. So hey, listen, I appreciate you guys watching. We're going to be doing one of these shows for all of the rookies going to the NFL draft. We've already done Josh Downs and Mayer and Blake Corum, so you can find all of those same kind of shows as this one on this channel. So I appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Jason, as always great doing shows with you, my friend.
You too, buddy. Thank you.
See ya.